So in the last class, we discussed about how do you identify the customer needs, or what is the importance of identifying customer need, and what are the steps involved in identifying customer needs. And we found that the first part is basically how to gather the raw data from customer, what the customer is expecting, what he actually wants in the product, and he tells in his own words. That is basically known as the raw data. Need not be in terms of a customer, the requirement of product design requirement. It will be more from the customer's point of view, what is the requirement he has. And then the next part is basically you interpret the raw data in terms of customer needs. So basically this raw data need to be interpreted as the customer's needs, and that is the job of the designer or the person who is interviewing to identify this needs, look at this raw data from the customer and interpret the customer needs, and then we need to organize this and establish the importance, and then reflect the results, and finally find out the actual needs. So this is basically the process to be followed in identifying the customer needs. And then we found that there are some standard methods to do this, like you can do interviews, you can do questionnaires, focus groups, customer, be the customer. These are the different methods that can be employed in order to gather customer needs. So first we look at briefly looked at the methods, which is known as like dislike methods. So this is one of the method we discuss as the proposed way of getting the customer needs. So we need to find out what the customer like, what the customer dislike, and then based on that identify the needs of the customer. And discussed about this format. So this is the format by which we can collect the data from customer. So you have typical the questions like what is the typical use of the product, what are the situations or what are the typical applications the customer will be having about this particular product, and then what he likes about the product, if it's an existing product or if it's a imaginary product. Also you can tell what actually the features, then it can be likes, and then what he dislikes about the product, and then suggested improvements. By asking these questions, you will be getting a lot of customer statements, and these customer statements need to be converted or interpreted as a customer need. So what actually the customer is asking when he says easy to use, or he says I like it is very lightweight. So you need to understand what actually the customers need in that particular application situation. That is how you interpret the need, and then give the importance, whether it is, and the importance is basically either the customer will tell whether it is very important or not important, or as a designer you can decide, okay, which one is the most important one is according to the customer, because this is an interview. So you'll be keep asking questions and then try to gather the information, and then see whether it is most important, less important, or it's an optional one. That also you will be writing here. So like this, if you interview large number of people, you will be getting large set of raw information as well as the needs, and that is the first step in getting the customer needs. We'll take an example and then see how this can actually be generated and how do you interpret the needs. So we'll take a simple product which is an electric frying pan. All of you know what is an electric frying pan? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So this is something which a company wants to redesign, or they want to come up with a new product which is in this category, electric frying pan, but they don't know what exactly should be the size, the quality, cost. They are not sure about all those things what the customer is looking for, or if the customer is already satisfied with this product, then they won't be able to come up with a new product. So they want to find out what are the customer needs for this product if they want to bring such a product in the market. So they will do a customer interview using this like dislike form, and the question will be like, what are the typical uses you have for this product? Customer needs to tell, okay, you have frying pan, what are the things you use it for, or what are the applications you have for this frying pan. What are the applications you can think of using a frying pan? Making Maggie, okay. Then that's all. Beat people, okay. Good experience, it seems, okay. Yeah. Then you can fry, you can prepare dal, you can make fish, chicken, or whatever or you can make curry, vegetable whatever it is. So there are many things. Somebody will be using it for deep frying. Somebody will use it for making boiling things, or somebody will be making cooking food like fried rice or something like that. So basically, there are multiple applications, not a single application. And if you want to use it for beating somebody, the requirement will be different. So the typical applications you will be able to get from the customer. So the customer will say, I'll be using it for stir fry. I mean, I want to fry something. I'll be using it for and I'll be using it for steaming. I'll be using it for scrambled eggs or frying eggs or making an omelette and cooking pasta or cooking chili stews. Okay, something everyday cooking. So a lot of other things you will be able to see. So basically, it tells the designer that it's not a single application. There are multiple applications for this, and somebody will be using it for deep fry, somebody will be using it for boiling also. So both applications are there, and therefore you need to think of a size, shape, and the dimensions, etc., based on these requirements. So that is the customer statement. So the interpreted need is that it may be used for multiple applications. So it should be capable of doing stir fry. It should be able to do cooking, and sometimes it may be used for stews, like some soup or something like that. So all those things will become the interpreted need here. Now, what the customer likes about this product. So he's already using a product. It's not a completely new product. So he has some application, and he likes something about the existing product. So what is that existing, what actually he likes about this product? So that is the question. And he says that non-stick surface is something which he likes very much, because it has got a non-stick surface, and therefore it does not stick onto the pan, and it is very good quality, so he likes it. And the size also he likes it. It's very compact and it's not very huge, and then it can stand on its own. Very interesting thing. Basically it says that I can just keep it there, it won't tilt or it won't topple. So that is something which the customer likes. Similarly, the temperature response rate is very high. That means it actually heats up very fast. That is the thing which he likes. And then it is aesthetically pleasing, and the depth of dish is also good. I mean, it has got enough depth so that it will not come out or it will not spill when you are doing some cooking. So these are the things he likes about this product. So what you can interpret from that? Pardon? Yes. So we need to keep these features in the product, then only the customer will buy. If you don't provide these features, then customer won't be interested in buying this product, so he may not like it, and therefore we need to have these as the interpreted needs of the product. So you can write in your own words or in your own way what should be the requirement. So one is that it should have non-stick surface. Okay, I'll come to the interpreted need later. So let us look at the dislikes first. So ask the customer, what do you dislike about this product? What are the things you don't like in these products? So short cord length. So you say that the cord length, so it's an electric one. So the cord length is very short, so that you need to keep it very close to the plug point. You cannot move it away from the plug point. So that is something which he does not like, short cord length. And it moves around too much when stirring. So though it is stable, it can stand on its own. When you try to stir the contents, it actually starts moving. So that is something which he does not like. And the entire assembly is too high or tall. That is something, looks like the height is slightly more, so it's not that good for him. And handles are hard to grip. The handles are provided, but it's not very convenient for the user, very hard to grip. So that is something he does not like in the product. And then temperature adjustment gets too hot, also too low to read. That is the temperature adjustment knob. Sometimes it becomes hot, so it's very difficult to adjust the temperature, or sometimes it's very difficult to read the markings on the knob. So these are the things which he does not like, and the sides don't get as hot, may overcook on the bottom. So the distribution of temperature is not uniform. Bottom it has got high temperature and the sides the temperature is less. So that is something which does not like, and afraid to get bottom wet. So at the bottom, if you make it wet, then there may be some problem with the electric, because the electric one. So they are afraid of electric shocks and other things. That's why afraid to get the bottom wet. So the customer says these are the things he does not like in the product. So what does it mean? In your product, when you design a product, you need to make sure that these things are addressed, or you are actually addressing these issues so that the customer won't be having this kind of problems. So that is the interpretation that you can get from here, and accordingly you interpret what are the needs that you can put from here. And suggested improvements, you ask, okay, so the customer will tell many things. Retractable code, so that you can extend the code and then retract it. Better gripping bottom, handles to grip, proper gripping handles, and make heating element casing flatter. That is, you can have more flat casing so that it can be properly, the temperature distribution will be uniform. And have a clip for lids so that you can take out the lid very easily. Deep frying accessory. So if you want to do it for something else, so you can have some kind of an accessories you can actually put on it and then do the deep frying. So some kind of accessories to add on to the product so that you will get a better utilization of the product. And maybe has ears on both sides in case someone is lefty. Okay, so that is basically you can actually hold it properly, and that is the ears on it, and you can actually take it with one hand and then do it. So these are the suggestions from the customer. So it's not necessary that all these suggestions are very good, all the likes, dislikes are 100% perfect. So it's up to the designer to see which one is important, which one is not important. So he'll be looking at these things and then trying to interpret the needs. What are the needs that you can identify from this? For example, the interpreted needs from the likes will be non-stick surface is an essential thing. It should be compact because the size is an important one. Customer says size is an important thing. So it should be compact. It should be able to stand on its own. It should have quick temperature response, aesthetically pleasing, and deep sides. So these are the things which it should be there in the product. Similarly, by looking at the dislikes, you can actually identify the interpreted needs and then say that it should have a long extension cord. So that is a need of the customer. He says the short cord he does not like. So basically tells that there should be a long extension cord. Similarly, can grip tabletop, compact, electric units, handles are easy to grip, auto shut off, that is basically to overheating or the bottom gets overheating. That condition can be avoided by having an auto shut off. Temperature switch is insulated from heat, that means it won't get heated up, and in easily accessible readable spots, constant temperature distribution, bottom is watertight. So these are the customer needs that you can identify from the dislikes. So from likes you can get lot of customer needs. Similarly, from dislike also you can get lot of customer needs. And then again looking at the improvement suggested, that also gives you some needs over here. So you can actually have some here, the code can be long extension code is one requirement, but retractable code is also another requirement. So you can actually say long and retractable extension code could be the requirement for this product. So this way you will be getting lot of customer needs, and then here you can have the important, whether it should be good, it should have, or good to have, or desirable to have, like that. Must have, nice to have, should have, good to have. This is the way you classify it. You can either give numbers, okay, 1, 2, 3, or you can say it should have something, it should, must, okay, these are all almost the same. And then you have good to have, nice to have. So nice to have need not be always there, but if you can provide it, that will be good. So this way you will be creating the needs list with the interpreted need and the importance in the this particular product. So this is the way how you use the like dislike form to gather raw data from the customer. So this is the raw data and these are the interpreted needs of the customer. And this shows what is the importance of this. Now, if this is only for one customer, so that customer need not be the perfect customer or he may not be always using it perfectly. And so you need to go to many people and then ask them, what are your likes and dislikes? Many things will be common, many things will be, there may be something which is new. So you need to get all these customer data for maybe 50 or 100 people. And then at the end of this, you will be having a large set of customer needs which need to be analyzed to see what is the actual need that customer is looking for. So that is the next step is basically to analyze all these data. The first one is to get the raw customer data from using the interview method or the like dislike methods. Got it? Any questions on like dislike methods? All right. So this, okay, so we discussed about the very many type of needs in the previous class. What are the type of needs? Direct needs, latent needs. These are the two major categories we can say, direct needs and latent needs. So when you ask these questions, what you are getting is the direct needs of the customer. How do you get the latent needs of the product? Is there any way to get the latent needs? Okay, so the questionnaire kind of or like, dislike or interviews will give you the direct needs which the customer can identify. That is basically the direct need which the customer is having no difficulty in telling these things. That is the direct need of the product. Now, if you want to identify the latent needs of the products or the indirect, any questions? Okay, yeah. So you want to get the latent or indirect needs of the customer. There are few things which we need to do, not directly with the customer, but more looking at the life cycle of the product or the use pattern of the product. So we call it as the use pattern of the product. How the product is used by the customer, and if you can go through all those stages, then you will identify what are the latent needs of the product or what are the things the product should satisfy if it has to work in a particular environment or particular system. So that is basically the latent needs. So there are multiple ways. So one is basically by looking at the customer use pattern, various activities involved in the life cycle of a product and the sequence of activities. So how the product is being used by the customer, not only on a daily basis, but from the date of he purchased the product till he disposed the product, what are the things happening in between? And if you can identify all those steps, then you will be able to identify many needs which are involved in the use of the product. So that is basically known as the customer use pattern and identifying the latent and indirect needs. So one of the methods to get this information is known as activity diagram. That is, the use pattern can actually be identified by using a activity diagram of the product. Activity diagram basically tells what are the activities involved in the whole life cycle of this product when it comes to the person, or when the customer is getting associated with the product, what are the various things happening, and a diagram of all these activities is basically the activity diagram. It's nothing complex here, very simple one. What you do with these products? That is the simple question, and then you try to make it as a in a diagram, and then you will be getting all the activities and that will tell you all the needs of the product or the latent needs of the product. For example, let us take a product. Assume that we are trying to redefine or redesign a refrigerator. It's a very common product. Most of you know what it is, and all of you know what a refrigerator is and what for it is used. So now we want to find out the latent needs of this product, which customer won't be able to tell, but as a designer you will be able to identify what kind of things are involved. So instead of going to each step separately, we look at what is happening in the whole product. So if you are a customer for a refrigerator, what is the first stage when you get associated with the refrigerator? What is the first step in or what is the first instant where you get connected with that particular product? Pardon? Delivery. Okay. So first is delivery, right? Sure. And who will buy it? You have to buy it first, right? Then only the delivery comes into picture, right? So first maybe you will be going to a shop, right? Okay, now because of the online, it may not be always true, but you will be having a store where the customer will be going, and then he will go through all the available ones and then purchase the products, right? And the purchase decision may depend on many things, like the size, what size he is looking for, what is the cost range he is looking for, whether he has any preference for a particular brand, all those things are involved. So he'll be purchasing this product. Then what will happen? Pardon? Yes, here something. What is that? Delivery. Okay. So what is happening and doing the delivery? Setting of bills. Oh, okay. Yeah, that is coming second. So you purchase it. You don't carry it in your bag, right? So there is a transportation involved. So you transport it. They look very trivial, all these issues, but then there are something which comes as part of this activity and the needs of the customer or the needs of the product. So you transport it, then it will be delivered. Then what will happen after the delivery? Installation, or we will be having, we call it as assembly. Okay, because the product will be having multiple parts, it has to be assembled. So there is a assembly involved, and then connect power supply. So you connect the power supply and then start using it, right? That's what happens. So what are the uses you will be having? So you will be having a freezer, you will be having the normal vegetable storage, and you will be having other storages also, right? So this is the way you will be using it. So basically you will be, so this can actually say use the products. So all these things can be considered as use the products. Now, is that the end of the story? No. What will happen? What is the other things? What are the other things involved? Pardon? Not able to hear you. Maintenance. Yeah. So sometimes it goes bad, right? So malfunction may happen. So then there is a service, and again after service it will go to the use again. So it will start using again after the service. Now again it goes malfunctioning. What will happen? They will say it cannot be repaired. So what will you do? You have to dispose it. So activity diagram is nothing complex. It is basically, you look through the various stages involved in in the customer gets associated with the product, and then try to see what is happening each stage and see whether there is any specific requirements you can identify during each one of these stages. Then that becomes your latent needs. Okay, so this is not, the customer is not telling you anything, but you are actually looking at the product life cycle and then trying to see what is to be done, right? So what kind of needs you can identify from here? So it has to be stored in the storage, right? So one need, we can say it's latent need in this case, but basically it should be a compact one, right? So if you make it very bulky, you need a large storage space. So it's always good to make it very compact, not from the customer's point of view, but from the manufacturer and the seller's point of view, it should be compact. So that is something which you can identify as a latent need, but it may be true as a direct need also. So it's not, you are not going to get any additional information. So purchase also, you can say people will purchase based on the features and the cost. So again, needs will be here, it should be low cost, it should have many features, etc. So not necessarily a latent needs, so you don't need to worry about that part. And something which the customer won't be able to tell you is about transports. He is not worried about how you transport it, right? He is worried about as long as it comes to your house, you are happy with that. But it says that there is a transportation involved in the product life cycle, and therefore two things: one, it should be lightweight, and the other one, the packaging should be proper so that it will not get damaged during transport. So one of the latent needs comes that it should be easy to transport, or it should not get damaged during transport is one of the latent needs, which the customer is not worried. The customer says that as long as it works at my home, I don't care. But this is the manufacturer's responsibility or the designer's responsibility, that it can be easily packaged and it can be easily transported. So that becomes one of the latent needs of this product. Now, delivery, there is no specific things, especially that packaging is good and it is lightweight, things can be easily done. So here also that lightweight also will come into picture because of the delivery and transport issues. What else? Now the next stage is basically an assembly of the product. What is the need here? Latent needs. It should be easy to assemble, right? Simple. Which the customer won't be telling you. It's not a direct need of the customer, easy to assemble. So easy to assemble will be one latent need you can identify. When you say easy to assemble, what actually you mean? Yeah, less number of parts, easy snap fit, or no need of large number of tools. So these are the things easy to assemble. But we normally look at from the design point of view, easy to assemble is a requirement. How do you make it easy is the next question that we will answer later. Okay. So easy to assemble is the requirement. And then connect to power supply. What is the requirement? Yeah, it should be. So you have to look at what kind of power supply the customer will be having. Is he having a, is it in India, or it is in the Europe or in the US? Things are different. So you need to look at which country you are going to use and what is the latent need of the power supply in that particular country or particular region. For example, in places like in villages and all, if you are using it, there will be a lot of power fluctuations. So you need to look at if there is a power fluctuation, then you need to provide appropriate stabilizers or an inbuilt stabilizer or an external stabilizer. So that becomes another latent need. So how do you adjust to the power fluctuations in that area? And what kind of power supply you have, 230 volts or 110 volts, 50 hertz or 40 hertz, that also becomes a latent need here. And then you look at what kind of application people are having. How many of you looked at the fridge in your house? What is there in the fridge? What are the things people keep in fridge? Food, cooked food and raw food, right? Vegetables, then ice cream maybe, right? Then milk. Pardon? Yeah, okay. Food for maybe 1 week food or 2 weeks food, but it depends. But more than that, see, there are people, some people will keep all the dals, raw dal and all things in the fridge. Somebody will keep all these things outside. Somebody will keep inside. Somebody will keep it in the freezer. So you need to have a idea of what are the major things that we'll be using and they'll be keeping. Accordingly, you will be able to identify the size needed for each cabin. So this is actually a latent need. The customer won't tell you that what should be the size of the freezer, what should be the size of the vegetable tray that is needed. These things you can actually look at by the use pattern of the customer. So how much space normally people use it for freezer, how much space normally keep for vegetables. So again, you will get some latent needs from here. Approximately percentage wise, you can say 30% of the space normally people go for freezer and less space for vegetable, or depending on the region it will be varying. So looking at this pattern, you will be able to get some latent need about the space distribution inside. And then it malfunctions. So malfunction, that means it's not working. That's all, simple. What the customer will be doing? They need to call the service center, right? So you need to have a service facility in that region. So that is one latent need coming more from the business perspective, not from the design perspective, but at least you need to know what are the major failures that can happen and how to address these issues. That becomes one latent need, the type of failures that you can anticipate. And then the service. So there is a service involved. So you should be able to design in such a way that the service becomes easy. Not that you have one small failure in a product, then you have to dismantle the whole product and then try to address it. You should be able to make it, the design in such a way that the service request can be easily addressed. That becomes one of the latent needs, easy to service or easy to repair. So easy to repair will be one requirement, which is again a latent need. As customer is not worried about is it easy or difficult. As long as it gets repaired, he will be fine, he will be happy. But it is the designer's job to make the repair easy for the product. That is the easy to repair. And that is coming as another latent need from the customer use pattern or the activity diagram. And the last one, okay, at the end of this, dispose. With a lot of talk on environment and eco-friendly systems. So how do we dispose this product is something which the designer should be aware of. From the beginning itself, from the design stage itself, he should be clear what kind of dispose options are there for the product. What are the things that can be reused? What are the things can be disposed of without affecting the environment? What are the things which need to be carefully disposed to avoid any particular environmental impact? So that again becomes the latent need of the product. For example, in the case of refrigerator, most of the times compressor may be in good condition, you can actually use it. Most of the trays will be in good condition, you may be able to reuse it for some other purpose. And the metallic parts which are which actually got rusted and all need to be properly disposed of. So the latent needs actually covers this aspect also by looking at what way the product can be disposed of. So these are the ways in which we can analyze the activity diagram and then identify all the latent needs of the product. Got it? Okay, so the direct needs can be obtained using questionnaires or interviews, but the latent needs cannot be obtained from the customer directly, and therefore we need to go through a different process and identify the latent needs. So one of the easy way to do this is activity diagram. So you look at the activities happening in the product or the life cycle of the product and see is there any specific instance where you can identify a particular need. Not necessarily that every stage has got a need, but you should be able to identify if there is any specific stage where there is a latent need involved, and that you should be able to identify. So that is the basic requirement in that is the basic way how you identify the latent needs of the product. So if you have to do the activity diagram for a product, okay, it has already come here. So this activity diagram shows the activities involved in the identifying latent needs of a nail clipper. Very simple product, but you can see still there are lot of stages involved which you need to look at and then identify what are the latent needs involved. So if you look at, so purchase, then transport, so sometimes you carry it, so there is no separate transport involved. Sometimes you put everything into a large basket of purchase you have, then you put it in the basket and then transport. So if there is a requirement transport, then you can look at the packaging, otherwise you don't need to worry. And then many times people may put some keys into the nail clipper, and there will be some chain, and then you would like to add something to the nail clipper. So that is something which you say, oh, the people are interested in that one. So probably you need to have some facility to put some keys or something into the product, and then you store or then use. So prepare to clip and prepare to file or pick the nail, and clip nails, return from clipping, pick nails and return, and then file nails and go back to store. So continue like this, and at some time you will find that it is not worth, keeping it, so you will throw away. So when you throw away, what are the issues involved? What kind of needs are there when you have to throw it? Can you throw it directly into a normal your waste basket, or you need to have it a separate waste basket? Because nowadays you have different kinds of waste baskets, plastic, metal, food, etc. So what are the conditions under which this can be thrown out? So this is the way how you look at the activity diagram of any product. This is just an example. I'll be so you need to you should be able to know how to prepare the activity diagram and identify the latent needs of the product. Got it? Okay. The next important question is, now you have 100 customer giving you 100 needs, 100 customer giving you 10 needs each. You have 1000 needs, and then you have lot of needs identified from your customer use pattern or the activity diagram. How do we compile them and then identify the actual needs? Because 100 customers will be giving different needs, and how to identify all these needs in a proper way is basically known as the organizing the customer needs, and we use something called a affinity diagram methods to do this. To categorize the customer needs and then sort out the customer needs, we use a method called affinity diagram methods. Have you heard of this? Affinity? All of you know what is affinity? English word. It is towards something, right? Affinity towards a particular thing. Now, it's a tool used to organize data in an efficient manner. A large amount of needs gathered from the stakeholder process. To organize the data, the needs were gathered and grouped by a topic or category. So that is basically the affinity diagram. So what we do, all the needs you identify, you write it in a post-it pad. The post-it pad is something like a yellow or different color, what you can see here. These are known as the post-it pads. So for each customer, you write the needs, identified interpreted needs into this yellow post-it pad. And then you start using a whiteboard, you start sticking these onto the boards. So you take the first customer, put these needs, and you take the second customer, then you will see that, oh, the second customer is also telling the same thing what the first customer said. If they are same or there is an affinity between these two needs, you put it below this one. So this was the first customer, this may be for the second customer. If it is new, you put it in a different place. So like this, you try to categorize the needs using the post-it pads. So write everything in a post-it pad and then take one by one and then try to categorize them into different categories. So for example, somebody will say it should be compact. Somebody will say the size should be small. Somebody should be, I should be able to carry it in my pocket. So all those things talks about the same thing. So if you see something similar to that, similar such needs are there, you put everything into a single row, single column. Similarly, these things will be in a different column. So each column actually represents a particular need. And then what need that you can identify can be put into another color post-it pad. So all these three basically tell it should be compact. So you are actually putting the customer needs from different customers and identifying what is the actual need that these customers are talking about. So you will be getting this as a particular need, and then this as a particular need, and then you categorize this one. Is it basically from the cost side of view, a low cost or size or the shape or whatever it is that you identify at the top of this, and then give the importance. Then this becomes the actual needs of the product. Though you have 1000 needs identified, finally you will be able to categorize them and then say that okay, there are only 15 needs which need to be addressed in the product. So that is the way how you start categorizing the needs and then bringing the needs into some specific needs that can be provided in the product. Customer needs that can be that has to be provided in the product. So this is basically known as the affinity diagram methods. We'll discuss this in the next class. How do you actually do an affinity diagram method for getting the product? But before we close, I'll give you a homework. Okay, so what you need to do is, so you have a form, like dislike method form. So I have given you the like dislike method form, and okay, there is a form. So you need to interview your parents, okay, your mother, your sister, or your father, whoever you feel that the right person to give you the answer. Ask them what they like about this particular product. Okay, probably you take it as a mixie. All of you, I think everyone will be having a mixer at their home and will be using this every day. You ask your parents what is that they like about this product, what they dislike, and what are the applications they have. Somebody will be using it for grinding, somebody will be using it for wet grinding, dry grinding, or some other purpose. Somebody will be using it for making dough for dosa idli. So what are the applications and what are the likes and dislikes and what suggestion they have. So please collect this and then do the activity diagram for these products. Identify the latent needs also. And what you need to do, you don't need to give me the hard copy. You scan the hard copy, both sides, and submit it in Moodle. Because I want you to keep the hard copy with you. We'll be doing some exercise later with the same hard copy. So scan the answer sheet, both sides, and then submit in Moodle by 19th, that is Wednesday. Okay. Sufficient time you have, right? Just to ask questions. Anyway, you are calling your home every day. Just ask these questions and submit this and keep the hard copy with you. I will ask this later for you to submit.